not confuse visibility with authority. Fear is not merely an emotional response, it is a spiritual decision about whom we trust more, our circumstances or our God. What happens when fear shapes how you see things more than God's presence does? Fear has a strange power. It can take something that's actually quite small and make it look enormous. It can take God, the infinite, all-powerful, ever-present God, and somehow make him feel small enough that we can forget about him. That's not an accident. That's how fear operates. It zooms in on threats and it zooms out on God, on who he is, on his character. And we tend to treat fear like weather, like it just happens and you have no say in it. But scripture treats fear as something closer to a vote. Every time you fear something more than you trust God, you cast your vote for what you believe actually has the power in this instance. Do not confuse visibility with authority. Just because something looks strong, looks intimidating, looks unchallengeable, does not always mean it actually has power over what God has promised you. This one is close to my heart, honestly. Burnout has a specific voice. It whispers, maybe you should just quit. Fear has a strange power. It can take something that's actually quite small and make it look enormous. It can take God, the infinite, all-powerful, ever-present God, and somehow make him feel small enough that we can forget about him. That's not an accident. That's how fear operates. It zooms in on threats and it zooms out on God, on who he is, on his character. On this episode, we're talking about the second half of Joshua and Caleb's plea. Do not fear the people of the land. And we're going to ask a question that I think touches almost every area of our lives right now. What happens when fear shapes how you see things more than God's presence does? Let's get into it. We've covered a lot so far. We've seen faithful vision, engaging manual override, the seriousness of hidden rebellion. And on this episode, we are turning to fear directly, which honestly might be the thing most of us are wrestling with more than any other thing that we've seen or any other thing that we've covered in this season. This episode is called Do Not Fear the People of the Land. And on this episode, we're going to get very practical. We're going to walk through real seasons of life where this principle applies, because this isn't just an ancient instruction. It is a living word for every season, and whatever season that you might be in, this word is for you. So without taking our time, let's begin to dissect it one at a time. We're going back to Numbers chapter 14 in verse 9. Reading again from the New King James Version. It says, "Only do not rebel against the Lord, nor fear the people of the land. For they are our bread. Their protection has departed from them, and the Lord is with us. Do not fear them." I want to slow down on this one phrase specifically on this episode. They are our bread. That's a strange thing to say about giants, because let's be real, they were actually giants in the land. Joshua and Caleb are looking at the very people the other 10 spies feared, and they are saying, these aren't threats. These are our nourishment. What appeared threatening would actually become the means by which God would sustain, strengthen, and establish them in that same land. That's the reframe we are working with today. The same set of instructions, the same set of rules, the same set of people who seem like a threat, God turning them to be the nourishment that actually sustains you and I. So let's start here. Joshua and Caleb's words reveal something important. Fear is not merely an emotional response, it is a spiritual decision about whom we trust more, our circumstances or our God. A decision, not just a feeling that happens to you, a decision. That's the key distinction. We tend to treat fear like weather. Like it just happens and you have no say in it. But scripture treats fear as something closer to a vote. Every time you fear something more than you trust God, you cast your vote for what you believe actually has the power in this instance. Well, that reframes it completely. It does, and here's what fear does once that vote is cast. It distorts perspective. It makes giants seem larger than God. It makes challenges seem greater than a promise that God already has given you. And faith does the opposite of that. Faith reorients your vision. Same giant, same challenge, completely different size, depending on which lens you are looking through. Okay, walk me through the second part of their statement. Their protection has departed from them. What does that actually mean? This is one of the most overlooked lines in the whole passage. Joshua and Caleb recognized a crucial spiritual reality. The inhabitants of the land may have looked powerful. They may have been in fortified cities, strong people, imposing presence, but they were spiritually exposed because God was not with them. So, in essence, their strength was visible, but their protection was absent. Exactly. And that's the line I want you to remember today. Do not confuse visibility with authority. Those are two different things. Ooh, say that again. Say that again. Of course, do not confuse visibility with authority. Just because something looks strong, looks intimidating, looks unchallengeable, does not always mean it actually has power over what God has promised you. True security is never found in size, in strength, or in strategy. It is found in the presence of God. So when you fear the people of the land, whatever that represents for some of us today, you're essentially doubting God's presence. Is that correct? Am I getting that right? And that's exactly what Joshua and Caleb were exposing. To fear the people of the land was, in essence, to doubt the presence of God. Victory was never dependent on Israel's military capability. It depended entirely on the God who was leading them, the God whose covenant with them has been faithful all along. And do not fear. That's not denial, is it? No, it's not denial at all. It's not pretending the giants are unreal. It is a refusal to allow reality to outweigh God's promises. Okay, so I want to make this really concrete now because I think a lot of people listening are thinking, okay, but what does this actually look like in my actual life in the 21st century today? Let's walk through a few. Let's walk through a few scenarios. Let's start here. Someone just graduated. Let's say someone just graduated college, just stepping into the job market for the very first time. Every interview feels like walking into a room full of giants, experienced professionals, intimidating hiring panel, a market that feels so impossible to break into. What do you say to that person? This is such a real fear, and I don't want to minimize it. The job search can genuinely feel like scouting a hostile territory. I know this because I've been in it. But here's the reframe. Your qualification, your connections, your perceived shortcomings do not determine your destiny. God's hands determine your destiny. Rather than fearing the process, you can approach each opportunity with faith, knowing that God has already prepared a place for you. It may be this one, or it may be the next one. The same God who led Joshua and Caleb into their inheritance is leading you directly into yours. Our problem sometimes is that we try to zero in on this one thing as though it has to be this one. But what if that's not where God is leading you? Okay, let's take a look at this one. A couple just got married. They're excited, but also they're facing financial strain, communication adjustment, pressures from family, from social media, other expectations, the unknown of a shared life together. What do you say to them? Marriage is one of those transitions where the unknown can feel genuinely intimidating. Like Marriage is one of those that a lot of people feel like they need to figure it all out before they get in. But if you are waiting to figure everything out before you step into marriage, and I'm not trying to sound like a marriage expert or anything, I've only been married for going on 10 years now. If you are stepping into marriage thinking that you've got to figure everything out, I think you're doing yourself, your spouse, and all of those people around you, I think you're doing them a huge disservice. Waiting to figure everything out by yourself without trusting in God is a setup for failure. Honestly, it is a setup for failure. So yes, marriage can genuinely feel like intimidating giants lying ahead, waiting for you on this path that you can't fully see. But the challenges in front of a marriage are never greater than the God who has gone for generations ahead of you. A successful marriage isn't built on perfect circumstances. It's built on faith in God's ability to strengthen, to sustain, to provide, to guide that union. When financial concerns arise, when disagreements surface, when outside voices begin to bring doubt, God is the foundation, not the circumstance. And I think we need to remember and bring God back to the foundation of the one thing that He instituted generations and generations ago. Okay, let's look at a parent now. It could be the parent of a new baby, the parent of teenagers, the parent releasing their grown child into adulthood. There is a certain weight of responsibility, the fear of falling short. What would you say to those parents? Parenthood carries a unique kind of fear because the stakes feel so personal. It's not just your life you're afraid of at this point, it's someone else's and possibly other people. But here's the truth Joshua and Caleb reminds us of. The giants before us do not have the final authority. God is present in the sleepless nights, the difficult conversations, the seasons of not knowing what to do next, the seasons where the child is not eating as they should. You are not parenting alone. You have to understand that the same God who was faithful years past, the same God who is great and who has been great for generations, He suddenly did not stop when it became your turn to be the parent. The same God who is faithful in the big things is also faithful in those quiet nights. The same God who is faithful in those high moments is the same God who is faithful in daily moments of raising and releasing the young people He has entrusted into your hands to help guide, to help nurture. He is faithful, and we have to trust Him in those moments. Okay, let's tackle this last one. Someone in ministry experiencing burnout, maybe dwindling resources, opposition from people, the feeling that the promise they've been working towards is simply unreachable. That you've been striving at this thing for so long, but for some reason it seems like the finish line keeps moving further and further. You've been working with a lot, but still with so little. That can have a spiritual strain on an individual. What do you say to that person? This one is close to my heart, honestly. Burnout has a specific voice. It whispers, maybe you should just quit. The journey is far greater than you. You are not equipped enough for this. You're not enough, definitely. Maybe you should just quit. But Joshua and Caleb's declaration applies here too. Oppositions hold no power when God has given us a promise. The critics, the challenges, the hardship, they're not meant to be feared because their protection has really departed from them. Rather than shrinking back into exhaustion or into doubt or into positions and places where you're not even sure of yourself, stand firm in the assurance that God is faithful. The God who has brought you thus far is faithful to carry you to wherever it is that He intends to. When it comes to burnout, I'm particularly cautious of what to say because it is real. because it is hard. To anyone who is experiencing burnout, instinctively I would like to let you know that the God who has brought you thus far is faithful, and that faithfulness bears fruit. It bears fruit in due season. So don't be burdened by it. Rest assured in the fact that He has brought you thus far for a reason. See, what strikes me about these four scenarios that I've outlined is that the giants are completely different. A job market is different from a marriage. A marriage is different from a new child. It's different from ministry. All of these are different, right? But what is the one thing that actually makes all of them work? Or what is one thing that we can glean from this that would help everyone in whatever situation they are? The principle underneath all of them is the exact same one. Whatever form your giants take, God has already gone ahead of you. That's the entire foundation of Joshua and Caleb's confidence. That should be the foundation of every one of our lives. We have to understand that God has already gone ahead of you. I want to ask you something a little harder, something I definitely think is a lot harder than the ones we've been talking about. Because saying don't confuse visibility with authority, that can sound great. That actually sounds great. But sometimes the opposition really does win. Sometimes the giants really do seem to come out on top. How do you hold on to this? How do you hold on to the promises of God when all of that happens? When it seems like you're not winning, when it seems like the opposition is gaining the upper hand. I don't think faith requires you to deny that real setbacks happen. But I want to give you something to stand on when those situations happen. Not a feeling, a declaration of truth. Isaiah 54 verse 17 says, "No weapon formed against you shall prosper." That's not a promise that no weapon will be formed. Weapons will be formed. Oppositions are real. But it is a promise about the outcome of that situation. So the weapon can be real, the opposition can be real, but the outcome is still secured. That's exactly it. And Colossians 2 verse 15 gives us the reason why. It says, having disarmed principalities and powers, He made a public spectacle of them, triumphing over them in it. Through the finished work of Christ, the enemy has been publicly defeated. That is a fact. This is why believers do not need to fear spiritual oppositions. Difficult circumstances or any uncertain future are there, but they are not enough for us to fear. The threat you face may be intimidating, but the authority is limited. It is extremely limited. What about the fear itself, though? Not the giant, the actual feeling of fear that shows up before you've even processed any of this theology. That is an honest question, because fear doesn't wait for you to remember the right verse. Here's what I'll say to that. Deuteronomy 31 verse 6 doesn't tell you to not fear. It says, be strong. Do not fear nor be afraid of them, for the Lord your God, He is the one who goes with you. He will not leave you. He will not forsake you. The command not to fear is always attached to a reason. He is with you. It's not don't fear because the threat isn't real. It is don't fear because you are not facing this situation alone. And that's what the enemy likes to make us think, likes to isolate us and make us believe that we are alone in this. But no, the word of the Lord says it. It says it to you. It says it to me. It says it to generations after us. Do not be afraid, for I am with you. And that's enough for me to hold on to. Let me bring this back to you. Maybe your giant looks like a job market that feels impossible to break into. Maybe it looks like a marriage facing real strain right now. Maybe it looks like the responsibility of raising a child you don't feel properly equipped to do yet. Maybe it looks like exhaustion from years of giving everything that you have, and that doesn't still seem to be working. Whatever your giant is, I want you to hear this very clearly. Fear grows when circumstances are magnified and God is minimized. Faith grows when God is magnified and circumstances are placed in their proper perspective. The giant in front of you is not a measure of what God can do. It is just a measure of what you can see right now. And what you can see right now is not the final word. We need to understand that. What you are currently seeing is just the present. The presence of God is the greatest assurance of victory that you can ever have. Not your strategy, not your strength, not your readiness. His presence with you moving forward. Not because the path is easy, but because the Lord has already gone ahead of you. The Lord has already gone before you. Here's your reflection question. What giant in my life right now have I been measuring by its visibility rather than by what God has authority over? Name it specifically, and then ask yourself, what would it look like for me to move forward in faith, one small act at a time, even while the giant is still standing right in front? Be honest about this, and let's see what God can do. And that's episode 5. Do not fear the people of the land. If one of those 4 scenarios hit close to home today, I'm talking about the graduate, the newlywed, the parent, the one experiencing burnout, share this episode with someone in that exact season of life as you are. You never know. This might be exactly what they need to hear at this point in time. On the next episode, we're going to move to faith over fear. We're going to bring everything together, everything we've built so far, and answer the question, how do you actually move from fear first reaction to faith's ultimate response? It's going to be one of the more motivating episodes of this season. So I look forward to having you on there. Until next time, cheers.